So this actually happened again on this paving crew as that. So during that summer I was with that group, the relationship between the foreman and this other guy was really bad. And it was horrible. And so I would hear the guys talking, we'd be out for lunch or we'd be out for a drink afterwards, and they would talk about this guy and what to do about this guy. And I remember one time the foreman said, well, because the guy said, well, he's never gonna quit. He's never gonna quit. Like thinking they don't like him. They don't want him part of the crew. He's never gonna quit. And I remember the foreman saying, don't worry, I'll make him want to quit. I'll make him want to quit. Well, what does that mean in real time? I'm going to make his experience at work so horrible, so awful, that his best choice is to leave the workplace. Now, sure, that was like 1980 or something. Now, like that just would be intolerable today, I think. But anyways, those sorts of like I'll call bad bosses or bad supervisors or line managers, whatever, They don't think of themselves as bullies. Again, they would be not the first ones, but they would be among groups that would like speak out against bullying in the schoolyard. And you kind of like, okay, you want to look in the mirror? I got a picture of a bully, right? They don't think of it in those terms. We need to understand power, because it's almost impossible to have a harassment or a bullying event without some use of or misuse of power. Now, most of us, when we think of workplace power, we are almost always going to think of structural power. So structural power is what? Structural power is a boss or supervisor or line manager to someone who's lower down the food chain in the org chart, right? So with me and Miranda, for example, I'm Miranda's supervisor. So if in any way I bully, harass, bother Miranda, and we'll get into what that looks like, that's potentially a violation because I have more structural power than her. She can't push back on me. If say I make fun of her religion, for example, I say, oh, that's silly, that's stupid. She's not able to push back against me. She's not able to tell me to jump in the lake. Why not? Because I hold employment power over her. And all of us intuitively know this. When a boss walks in the room, are we aware of it or not? Why? Why are we aware when a boss walks in the room? Because we don't want our behavior to get us into trouble. Because if we get in trouble with the boss, we're afraid for our employment. So that's called structural power. And it's one that we've most often thought of. But there's two other kinds of power that are really starting to get into view. Second one is physical power. I think most of us get that if someone has more physical power, either through their own force or through some sort of weapon, that constitutes a power differential, and not only is probably a crime, but is certainly going to be under the purview of bullying and violence. But the one that we're talking a lot about now is what we'll call power of the majority, right? Ever watch that movie Mean Girls, right? About teenage girls at high school and just how much power they have over people who aren't in their group. Well, guess what? We're noticing the very same things are happening in the workplace. And it's either cultural power, so you see people hanging together in cultural groups and kind of targeting people outside their cultural group, or peer power. So we hang out, and if you're not part of our group, we can sometimes deliberately omit you and leave you out of things. And we think that's fine. Guess what? The sorts of things we're learning now is if, say, there's a posse of you that always, Friday night after work, you like to go down to the local drinking establishment. Hey, you could have a couple cocktails, and you never, ever, ever invite me. That could be understood as bullying and harassment. It's called social isolation. It doesn't mean that I have to be your best friend. You're always going to include me. But if you exclude me, either intentionally or passively, the burden is, have you thought about what it must be like to be me? Is that going to be hurtful to me, perhaps injurious to me? And so you guys may never think about it, but your supervisor has to think about it. And so these are the kinds of things that if there's that kind of peer power of the majority, that's also a very powerful kind of dynamic that can lead to bullying, harassment, and violence. You guys must have seen this kind of thing in high school, right? And for whatever reasons, people just said, I guess that's just the way it is. Not much you can do about it. But now there is.